Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday evening. How about that? It's been a long day over here. And since we're going to be talking about a topic that's a little, maybe kind of, sort of edging on conspiracy, although not conspiracy theory, I still thought I'd turn on the old blue light. And we'll get a little mystery in the background. And so I hope you're all doing well. I want to welcome everybody who's here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting my channel. It's kind of cool. I appreciate that. One of the themes for tonight, by the way, this is a cup that I got. You've seen it a couple times when I've been on the Situation Room and other places. It's my George Washington cup, which I got in South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, when we were there seeing all the historical sites. Very cool. We went down for my daughter's wedding at the beginning of May, and we took our slow time coming back, Rainey and the family, my three kids. We all we took a car down and we rode back and we saw the historical stuff, and they got to go wading in the ocean for the first time. So it was pretty neat. But I picked up this cup, and on the back side of this cup, you can say, or the front maybe, guard against the imposters of pretended patriotism. That's what George Washington said. Guard against the imposters of pretended patriotism. And, he was spot on for what we're going to be talking about tonight. So I'm glad he gave us that quote for the show. All right. Nigel, good to see ya. Stucci is also in the house. Yo, Rocky, Stucci is in the house. I talked to him not long ago, and he's doing all right. So, we lost a little connectivity, but we're doing well. And we got, I just want to say hi to James and everybody, and Leslie. Good to see you. Audrey, nice to see you. Thanks. Yeah, Smoking Man, little man behind the curtain stuff going on. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to do. And she's at work, so Audrey's going to be here for a bit and then out. And I want to tell you right away, 2 hours from now, shy of 3 minutes, I'm going to be live with Rocky Stucci in the Situation Room. And if I'm lucky, I may get a chance to change my shirt before that show. You know, folks, I got a true confession. It's the same shirt I had on yesterday. Wasn't dirty, hanging on the hook. Threw it on this morning for quickness. Then I had my day and my day and my day, and everything got all muddled. I never got a new shirt on. I mowed the lawn. I weed whacked the lawn. I've thrown all kinds of dirt up into my hair and my face, and I didn't get a chance to take a shower. So here we are at 9 o'clock at night. I was up at 5:30 this morning, and I'm still wearing what I wore yesterday. So I didn't sleep in it. At least that's good. But I think this shirt has seen its last day before laundering. And it is, after all, summer. It's hot. It's humid. And this is my linen shirt, one of them. And so linen looks good, roughly dirty, untucked, and unkempt, along with my khaki shorts. So there you go. So just in case you were noticing, my clothing attire, or my attire for the evening. So Melinda, good to have you here. Beautiful person. Topper, nice to see you. James Sheets, I think I said hi to you earlier, but I start talking in the middle and I lose track. And Leslie, nice to see you. Let's see who we got. We got Melinda. I said hello. Leslie, VJB, nice to see you. Let's see. Susie Q, good to see you. If I'm Captain, you can be my Ensign Rand. How about that? So you'll be my ensign, unless you are of a higher rank that I don't know about. Let's see. We got 09 Klaatu. Good to see you. I'm not sure I've seen you here on the channel before. It's nice to have you here. And Nigel, hello again. Let's see. We got going through, scrolling through, just seeing who's here right now. Scott Grimes. Good to see you, Scott Grimes. Nice to have you here. And Terry Electra, greetings, felicitations. Let's see. And I think that's it for the moment. Michelle, good to see you as well. And so we're going to get this rolling pretty soon. I'm going to tell you this. It's probably smart to prepare for a show where you're doing commentary on something, and especially when you don't have a Rocky Stucci to play off of. I think that's why Rocky and I do well together. We can come unprepared and say, whoops, we didn't do anything. What are we talking about today? And we say, let's just turn on the mics and go. And tonight I've got kind of a topic I want to talk about. Might not seem as conspiratorial as it seemed on its surface by the graphic for the show tonight, but it's conspiracy in my head nonetheless, or at least the operating of the men and women behind the curtain that we don't see. As I used to tell my kids, remember the Wizard of Oz? Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. You know, well, bust my buttons. It's a horse of a different color. Come on in. You know, so that's so I gotta tell you, it should be beneath the dirty shirt. Yeah, I'm dirty beneath the shirt too. So it's shower time. Well, I might not have time, depending on how long I talk before Rocky comes on. So, Frank Morgan, indeed. I heard that he was quite the alcoholic, and he was drunk, they say, through the entire filming of that movie. But he was also knew his craft, and he was good at what he did. And so I'm looking forward, actually, and I'm not gay, but I'm looking forward to the movie about Judy Garland. And I always say that because, it's the gay joke. They all like to do Judy Garland. I love a parade. And so, I'm looking forward to that, though. I don't know how well Renee Zellweger will play her, but she seems pretty darn good in the theatrical trailers I've seen. It looks like it's going to be a fairly dark, sad movie, which is too bad. But it's about her older days before she died. I don't know where they focus on in the movie, but I'm saying it's probably within the last year of her life with some flashbacks. So, yeah, you can't replace the originals. If she's singing the part, which I think she is, there are certain vocal qualities that Judy Garland had that I don't think I've ever heard anybody be able to repeat. She had such a unique voice. So we'll see how well that does. I'm intrigued by it anyway. So tonight I want to talk about, I don't like to be. Let me back that up even more. Rocky and I talked about this earlier today. Are we going to talk about the Mueller hearing tonight on the Situation Room? And we might touch on it, and it's the same thing here. I don't want to talk about that stuff. You know why? Everybody else talks about that stuff. There's something about doing radio or doing a podcast where when I was doing it years ago, I started doing it in like 1999. I started doing paranormal radio. Now, it's never been my profession, but it's always been an identifier for me. I've always used radio. I've always done radio alongside different things I've been involved with. And back then, we were doing paranormal radio in, I think it was 2000 when we started. And I was with a partner on that effort. Who was running a show out of KOMA I believe it's KOMA, Coma, in Oklahoma City. And and I was here in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And so we did that show. And when I started doing my podcasting, I never wanted to call it a podcast. I said, it's a radio show. It's a radio program. I always use the word program rather than show. Because there were a handful of people out there doing it. And one thing about the things I start setting my mind to set to the endeavor is that I don't want to be like everybody else. I don't want to just, it's like when we started the events, we started the Paradigm Symposium back in 2012. Well, there were a few events going on before that, Darkness Radio, Beyond Reality, and there were a couple of other events, but there weren't a lot of them going on. And it seemed after a couple of years of my being in that, everybody else was doing events. And by year 5, it just got to be another one of the expensive events out there. So stop doing it. Same with the magazine. I started publishing Intrepid magazine back in 2011. And we went for a few years. And as soon as it got to be so cluttered out there with people doing exactly what I was doing, copying my model to a certain extent, I said, I'm done. It's not fun for me anymore. I want to be unique. I don't want to be the same old, same old. Then same with radio. And I started doing podcasting and radio, and I said, I do this because it's fun for me. As soon as it loses its fun factor, as soon as it becomes the same old thing that everybody else is doing, I'm out. And so you can turn on iTunes, you can turn on your computer, you can go anywhere and YouTube, and it's great, the advent of what people can do in creating their own radio shows and a podcast like this one. But when it starts getting glutted with over 20,000 people talking about the same thing and in the same mode, and most of them only talking to 12, 13, 14 people, it starts to get old. And I don't want to be the same old for you guys or for anybody else that comes in here. So, having said that, what I titled tonight's show was, behind the curtain or under the sheets, under the dirty laundry of what's going on really. And I put the cigarette smoking man from X-Files because there are things I think going on behind the scenes that we don't consider, that people in general, if they are not thinking, do not click into. Rocky and I have talked about this many times, by the way. You see, every time you encounter something on social media or you look up any articles on current news, if they even smack of politics, you're going to see all these comments that people make. And one thing I have noticed about most of the people I see commenting is that they don't know what they're talking about. Now, I don't say that from a cocky, haughty point of view or any lofty, looking down my nose, arrogant point of view. What I mean by that is if it's an article about President Trump, per se, you'll see 100 people will come in and refer to, oh, that orange turd in the office, or whatever. And they come up with all these stupid monikers for him, and they're resisting. And many times the things they're saying are stupid. It's stupid, worthy of a hashtag shut up. So here's what I'm saying about that is people will make comments and they'll say things. I'm going to just pull something out of my ass here. They'll say things like, well, we all know he's a criminal and we all hope he goes to jail for it. And I'll say, well, that's great. What facts and evidence do you hold in hand to be able to make an empirical statement like that? Trump is guilty of crimes that should send him to prison. Now, I don't want to talk about that. That's not the topic here. The topic is how they believe what they believe. And I challenge them. I say, can you present, I said, with all due respect, can you present your facts and evidence you have in hand? Don't go look it up. Don't go try to quote anybody's articles. For you to say the president of the United States is guilty of crimes worthy of going to prison, will you share with me your knowledge? What is your source point for that? What facts do you hold in hand? What evidence do you have? And I said, because if you don't have any, remember, hashtag facts don't care about your feelings. And also, hashtag facts over feelings. I was going to say fiction. Facts over feelings. Hashtag substance over symbolism. And I always like to use that quote of John Adams. And I've got it right here. I got to look at it every time I do it because of, I don't know, my failing memory, whatever it is. But he said, facts are stubborn things. And whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passion, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence. John Adams said that. So what I like to tell people is, and ask them, is if you don't have your facts in hand, it's irresponsible of you to make statements like that. Now, you could modify your statement and say, I really hope he ends up in jail. I really hope he's guilty. At which case I would ask, why would you hope such a thing of the President of the United States? Why would you want the world to see that of our country? Why would you want to see him fall because he's actually committed a crime? Why would you want to see that happen? And I said, that's a terrible thing to wish on our country. And so the answer never really comes back very clear. They usually shut up and don't say anything after that. And I'm guilty as anybody else of saying things like, Adam Schiff, he's an idiot. He's a pencil neck idiot. Now, I don't need any facts. That's an opinion. But if I said Adam Schiff is colluding with Vladimir Putin, let's just pull the obvious one out of the hat. He's colluding with Vladimir Putin to dethrone Trump. I would have to have some facts and evidence to make that statement. Otherwise, I would have to preface that by saying, I think, or it's my opinion, or it's this or that, or whatever. So now, on top of that, as we all know, there's the mainstream media, the MSM, that controls a hell of a lot of what people hear, what they see, the information they take in. And when we say, people on the right or people who are looking at this a little closer, that the MSM, the mainstream media, is tacitly colluding with the left point of view in this country, that's a very accurate statement. Now, the press is also fickle. I will tell you this. CNN, that's been against Trump all the way along, and you can see it. The Washington Times, all of these, or the New York Times, I'm sorry. But as soon as, something's starting to be proven that maybe Trump didn't do this or that or the other thing, they leak out these little stories that are a little more positive. But I've seen very positive, a big lack of positive articles about the President of the United States. Media-wide. What was it? CNN last weekend, a weekend ago, after Trump made his statement about, you can go back to your own country and then you can come back here and show us how you did it. All the calls and caterwauls of racism. All the CNN, I think it was over 1,300 times, if I'm remembering that number right, used the word racism between Saturday and Sunday, talking about the President of the United States. And puppetitions, that's a very good word for it, Nigel. Project Mockingbird, says Michelle. Exactly. Let's see. I want to just go through and see if there's a bunch of Jason Rios. How are you doing, sir? Good to see you here. Iowa X, nice to have you back. I'm too nice, says Iowa. Just attack him. See, here's the thing about attacking. I don't like doing that. I would rather incorporate words over my fisticuffs, or even verbal fisticuffs. Incorporate words and try to get somebody to understand, hey, what you're saying doesn't make any sense, so make it make sense to me. You want to win me over to what you believe? Or are you just belly aching and caterwauling? If that's what it is, shut up. If you want to win me over, tell me what it is exactly you're trying to express. Only use facts and evidence. So that's what I like. Chump's hair is a comb over or a comby. Who did he fire first? I don't know. It's not a comb over. His hair's real. He just pulls it all over. His hair's probably like mine. Look how thin my hair is. And I start doing that, and some days I look in the mirror and I go, God, that looks like a comb over. It's not. Trump's is worse. He's got a shitty hairstyle for the President of the United States. You got to admit. I thought Trump would look a lot better if he just shaved down the sides and the back, took it up nice and tight, same on the top. Don't comb all this shit over like this. Just let it be. Have a natural haircut. He probably look pretty good. Maybe grow a little goatee and a mustache too. That's what Trump needs. He needs a good haircut and a goatee and a mustache. But that's my opinion. So, and I've seen him. I've seen, who was it? Whose show was he on? Jimmy Kimmel before Jimmy Kimmel got too political? Or one of the other late night shows back when he was running. And I think it was the host, the other guy, not Jimmy Kimmel, the other took over the Tonight Show. What the hell's his name? He reached over and it shows him he's grabbing Trump's hair. Trump said, go ahead and pull it. And he grabs it and he's pulling it. And he goes, it's real. So he's got real hair. Boris over there in England, he's got some hair problems too. But that's for another thing. Trump needs to enact the sergeant at arms and arrest them all. Maybe. What would that do to our country, though? If the president arrested all these dopes who've been carrying this thing on. Now, the reason I came up with the topic I did tonight, I didn't watch the hearings all day today. I caught them off and on. And I just wanted to see what was going on. And then I happened to, in the evening, catch the last 5 minutes of the Democrats' press conference. And Adam Schiff is up there and he's talking about, we finally have what we need to move forward. And I thought, what were you guys watching? I didn't see anything that gave you something that was finally worth moving forward on. They did get out of Mueller in between all of his refusals to answer his, that's out of my purview, his, could you repeat the question? Between all of those, at one point, he did say the first part of the report is a no, the second part is a yes. Can't remember who he was answering on that. But one, collusion, two, obstruction. And he seemed to reiterate his point. What I've said is that he is, I cannot prosecute him. And so I'm leaving the door open for you guys to prosecute him. And also, somebody brought up a point of law today. Exoneration was the question. Doesn't the Attorney General have the right to exonerate? And he was asking Mueller a point of law. He said, just a point of law. And he pulled out 3 law books, stacked them up. And he says, by my reading, I've got to ask you a question. Does the Attorney General of the United States have the ability to exonerate the president? And you know what Mueller's answer was? I can't talk about that. It's like, what? And he said, what? Why? It's a point of law. I'm not asking you about the president. I'm asking you about a point of law. And he wouldn't answer that question. So what I started thinking after that, I started considering this, and I'm listening to Adam Schiff talk about this stuff. And then Adam Schiff said something about, I'm a former prosecutor and I'm an old prosecutor, he said. And my job is always to get enough evidence before I can indict someone. I have to get the evidence. I have to see all the facts. And this is why this has taken 2.5 to 3 years. He says, because before I could make a charge, I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about and that the facts and evidence were all there. Okay, laudable. I appreciate that. But then why was he 2.5 years ago saying Trump was a Russian agent? And that's why we need to impeach him and take him down. He was saying that before the Mueller investigation ever began. So he's lying. Maybe it's a small lie. Maybe it's a white lie. But Schiff is up there saying, I don't consider anything until I look at all the facts. We hadn't seen any facts back then. He had the Steele dossier, which has been verified to be false. So he didn't have facts in hand. So there you go. That started making me think, what's really behind all of this? Because we have heard over and over and over again that this isn't about collusion. This isn't about today's hearing with Mueller, wasn't about clarifying what Mueller said. This was something that was all about trying to convince the American public that the Democrats could move ahead with impeachment. It's all it was all about. They didn't care what the response would be, but they were hoping to God, I think, that they got the kinds of answers they wanted. And from what I saw, the Republicans put up a pretty good case for Mueller not having the evidence or the power to do that, and that's not what this was all about, what he said in his report, but that the Democrats, conversely, were denying that that's why they were doing what they were doing. They just wanted clarity for the American people, they said. And frankly, I think the American people were pretty clear on what the thing said. If there is evidence to indict the president, then indict him. The problem is they can't indict him as a sitting president. They have to wait till he's out of office. So they're using this to say he's committed crimes, he's committed obstruction. Schiff even said today, the whole thing, he's skipping over the whole cleared really of Russian collusion and saying that all Trump wanted to do was build his Moscow Trump Tower. And that's why he did what he did. And that's why he let the Russians intrude into our elections. He still said that. He said that this afternoon. And that's already been proven to be false. So you can see the motivations of the people. They are still butthurt that they lost the presidential election. They, I think, know as well as anybody. Here's the thing. They know what the truth is. They know what the facts are. But they need to use their own version and interpretation and spin on those facts in order to win the next election in their way of seeing things. Now, the question came up in the hearings today. What about the statute of limitations? It's 5 years on all they're saying Trump is guilty of. Collusion? It's not serious collusion. I'm sorry, not collusion, obstruction. Sorry, I misspoke. Obstruction. And again, the question comes up, how can you obstruct something that wasn't a crime? How could you obstruct justice on something you hadn't been charged with? And so that question came up today. And then there's a statute of limitations on obstruction of justice. It's 5 years. So somebody asked Mueller, well, what if the president wins re-election? 8 years will have passed since this all started. And so collusion, the statute of limitations you're saying that exist, would be all done with 3 years before he was out of office. So there'd be no grounds to even try to impeach him for those things. That's how unserious a crime it is. It's got a 5-year statute of limitations. Geez, there's a 10-year statute of limitations for writing a bad check. So it's not even as important as writing a bad check, this stuff that they're trying to nail him with. So what they don't want to have happen is Trump elected to a second term. And they want him out of office. They want to prove he needs to be out of office. This is going to be ridiculous for the next 2 years, folks. This is going to keep going on and on and on. So what I'm talking about the smoking man behind the curtain in the dark room or the bright room where he's silhouetted, the conspiracy, if you will, is to fool the American people. Now, I'm not just saying this out of my ass, folks. I've watched this stuff for years. Rocky and I have watched this stuff for years. We were talking about things very similar to this before Trump was even elected. And the conspiracy behind the curtain is that the left is continually trying to make the country believe that something is so when it is not. And they utilize everything they can, every trick in the book they can, to fool the American public. Because they don't have anything on Trump. No matter what Mueller did, it was proven today over and over and over again that Mueller didn't really even know what was going on with his own report. So the big question comes up, did he even remember it? Did he remember that? I want to get into some. I've got a little article I want to pull some points out and read you. But first, before I do that, I want to talk about what you're seeing happening in front of you. And Rocky and I have talked about this many times. John Ward and I have talked about it. It's The Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. And this is a book he wrote in 1971. And it was his goal for The Rules for Radicals was to create a guide for future community organizers, activists to use in uniting low-income communities, the have-nots of society, in order for them to gain social, political, legal, and economic power. That was his stated goal. But what he engaged in, if you aren't familiar with these rules, it's really this construction of it's symbol construction is what it is. It strengthens the unity of an organization. And so here were the things, the rules you had to abide by as an activist or a radical in order to try to fight your opponent. Get that? Fight your opponent. And to get other people to believe what you were saying. Here's the 10 rules. No, it's actually 13. 1, power is not only what you have, but what the enemy thinks you have. So you've got to make the people believe you have the power. 2, never go outside the expertise of your people. All right? You don't want to go beyond what your people can defend or fight or anything like that. 3, whenever possible, go outside the expertise of the enemy and their people. So you want to state things. You want to attack the enemy that are things that are outside their bailiwick, so to speak. It was like I mentioned last night when the Obama administration started using the word racist to label any legislator or government official that disagreed with the policies of Obama. They used racist, and then that person had to stop and start dialoguing about why he wasn't a racist. And then even then, they attacked from a different angle. Oh, you're just not a racist. And then it became a bad thing to say you're not racist. So 4, make the enemy live up to its own book of rules. That one's easy. 5, ridicule is man's most potent weapon. That's where another place where the racism bit came in, calling somebody a Nazi. It's ridicule, and that's one of man's most potent weapons. You got somebody up speaking who believes in what he's saying, and you start ridiculing him in the news and all over the place, that's going to set him off his game. Unless you're Donald Trump. Donald Trump reacts. He gets pissed off and he says his thing. I don't for a minute think that Donald Trump gives a rat's ass about what people think about him, because he knows, or think about what he says. I mean, think about how he attacks back. He is bothered by things people say about him. Anybody would be. But he's got a pretty damn thick skin. Let's see. 6, a good tactic is one your people are going to enjoy using. So the people on the left, their tactic, they enjoy this. They're trying to, what's the word? Disenfranchise the Trump presidency. And they enjoy doing that because they want to see him fall. They don't want to see him win again. They want the power back. A good tactic is one your people will enjoy. A tactic that's number 7, a tactic that drags on too long becomes a drag. Now, what do you think people are thinking about the Mueller report? Oh my God. When will this be over? What do you think they think about this whole thing about trying to prove Trump still colluded with Russians and that Trump is guilty of obstruction? It's going on forever. It's starting to become a drag. So they've got to keep invigorating it with new life. This is why Mueller was there today. It was to try to show people that they had something they could grasp onto that was new and fresh, that was going to substantiate their claims for a call for impeachment. And impeachment so they could indict Donald Trump, remove him from office. Impeachment, by the way, wouldn't do that. Removal from office would do that. And you all remember, those are two different things. Impeaching the president doesn't mean he's going to be removed from office. Bill Clinton was impeached, but he wasn't removed. They did not vote to remove him. So a vote for impeachment is almost a so what thing at some point if they don't remove you from office. It's like saying, yes, we award you for the slander committed against you by this guy, but we don't believe the slander is real, so we're going to fine you $1. So there you go. Keep the pressure on is number 8. Keep it constant, constant, constant. Where have you seen that over the last 2 years? The threat is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. That's another rule for radicals. The threat of what you're saying is usually more terrifying than the thing itself. 10, the major premise for tactics is the development of operations that will maintain a constant pressure upon the opposition. Pretty clear? 11, if you push a negative hard enough and deep enough, it will break through into its counter side. Meaning you keep pushing, you're going to even have people on the other side going, I wonder. 12, the price of successful attack is a constructive alternative, which is something that these people lack. Where have you seen in the Democratic Party a constructive alternative to what's going on? Because if they impeach Trump and remove him from office, they've got Pence, and they hate Pence too. So what's that going to do? I've already started hearing ramblings about how Pence was in collusion with Trump and his obstruction of justice. It just goes on and on and on, folks. Let's see. And finally, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it. So that is those are the rules for radicals. And you can see that going on. And the reason, yeah, right, Nigel, I did not have sex with that woman. A lot of exercises, Leslie, during the Clinton administration, running to shut off the TV, as the media talked about as BJ in the Oval Office. I had 6 kids in the house I was trying to protect. I hear that and I get that. Daddy, what's a blowjob? Well, I'll tell you someday. So, let's see. Censorship, right you are. Susie Q. I'm going to see some of your comments before I move on into this. I've got a little article and some notes that I've taken here I want to talk to you about on this very thing. Our president has been treated like crap, and it's not fair to him. Can you imagine if the right would have gone after Obama like this? And part of it is the Dems are saying, we're getting you back for what you did to Obama. Well, you know what I saw the right doing to Obama? They obstructed him, but they obstructed him on political, ideological grounds, not because he was the black guy in the office, which, by the way, I hear people say all the time, the orange turd in the Oval Office. And somebody said to me, well, you said worse things about Obama. I said, no, I did not. I said, and I've got record of the last 10 years of doing radio. I said, you tell me one time where you heard me say that, and I can show you all the times I didn't. And you never once caught me saying, oh, that stupid purple eggplant in the Oval Office, referring to Obama and, his skin color. Never did that. Never did it once. So I respected the man in the office, whether I respected the man and his ideologies. It's going to be wild at the polls coming election time, says Jason. Spot on, brother. I think it's going to be interesting. Either one of two things is going to happen, I think. Well, I suppose this is all options. Trump is going to lose miserably, which I don't think is an option. Trump could lose by a slight margin or win by a narrow margin, or Trump is going to have a landslide. The only problem with all of this right now that's working in Trump's favor for re-election is it's still a year out from the elections, a year and 3 months. A year and 3 months, what's going on today is ancient history by January 1st. So we'll see if he keeps the economy straight and keeps progressing with the economy and foreign policy and all of that, he's going to be a very hard president to beat and a very hard president to impeach. But the left that is for his impeachment, they don't care. They're all about servicing their desires, not necessarily representing their people. When I hear a Democrat say, well, I'm just here representing my constituency, I think it was Al Green, who is 3 times now has brought forward articles of impeachment. And what does he say? He says, it's my people in my district, or the people that I represent want to see him taken down. That's why I'm doing this. That is bull as in bull, shit as in shit. B as in B, S as in S. You know why? Because it's not what his people want. It's not what his constituents want. His constituents want the truth, and they want answers, and they want things done properly. His constituency is not pressing him to push for impeachment. He is pushing impeachment on his own. And the way he gets away with that is he said, my constituency elected me for my views. Therefore, this is my view, so I'm going to do that. No, your constituency elected you to represent them, not because you represent yourself. So words are swords, Nigel. I agree. Let's see. I'm just flipping back here a little bit. Okay, let's move on. Let's see. Go support the cannoli, says Audrey. Thank you. I'll accept donations, and I would like your vote next November. Not that kind of support. I have too damn many skeletons in my closet. I would not want to go into public office because of the computer age. I could have gone into office 150 years ago or 200 years ago. Nowadays, I don't want people knowing everything about. I had people that were criticizing me for things I wrote in my books, that were bringing up court records and things like that in my financial statements. I'm like, where'd you get that? And granted, this was stuff somebody was saying. They said, oh, here it says you were harassing your wife. You got a charge of harassment from your wife. I said, why don't you finish the story there? I said, my wife was divorcing me because she had an affair with somebody, my ex-wife. She had an affair with somebody, and she was trying to cover her butt, and she made all these spurious claims about me and tried to have an order for protection filed against me, saying I was harassing her and she was in fear for her life from me. I said, what happened in that hearing, which you're not adding, is that the judge threw it out and said, this is a piece of bullshit. And he threw it, and he said everything but those 2 words. And he threw it out, and he granted me more time with my children in the temporary phase. And then I finally won custody of my kids. I said, so if you're going to use that crap against me, wherever you got it from, court records, somebody actually looked up court records on me because somebody was criticizing me for my book on the Nephilim. Go figure. Because it became a character assassination when they couldn't take down the fact that I was writing something from an examination of mythology point of view. So that stuff happens, guys. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. If you're talking to me, Leslie. I told that person, I said, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Finish the story. And so I finished the story for him, and he didn't have anything more to say. So anyway, now I want to talk about a little bit about what happened today. And I want you to think about this for a second. Now, when I say, I had a good friend of mine just say, well, we all see what we want to see in these hearings. And I said, no, I don't think that's true. I said, I think if you turn off your critical thinking switch, you hear what you want to hear. You demonize or you elevate or whatever. I said, you got to think through these things. If Trump is guilty, you know what? I'm going to be the first one on the bandwagon to say, you lied to me, you MFer. I would like to see you go to jail. But I don't think he lied. So facts and evidence, folks. Facts and evidence. Now, there's something that I saw in these hearings today. Schiff, Adam Schiff, who I think is a pencil neck geek out there. I know there are other pundits who call him the same thing, but he's an idiot, I think. My opinion. Chairman of the Judiciary Committee. I think he's an idiot because of some of the things he said just today, saying, I want facts and evidence, but he believed this stuff before there was any facts and evidence to even look at because he wanted the president gone. He's stinky as a rat, as far as my book goes. Devin Nunes, I think it's pronounced Nunez. I've heard it enough. He nailed these guys today. He described everything that was going on, all of the phoniness, all of the collusion. You should have heard it. It was a brilliant little piece of oratory, and all of the illusions of the Democrats that they're trying to create for the American people. Collusion where there isn't any, the timeline of how it was going to be produced. Here's what I saw. And I'm going to give it to you like in an analogy. Mueller was listening to Nunes. If you watched his face, he was watching him and he was listening. They had occasions where they had this split screen with Mueller on the left and Nunes on the right. Mueller was listening to Nunes, kind of rapt attention. He was, but the facial expression on Mueller's face was almost like somebody that was hearing something for the very first time. It's like he had to sit and concentrate on what Nunes was saying, almost like he was asking himself, did I write that? Is that true? Are you quoting me? But he didn't say that. But I think that may be the case. I think there's a huge case to be made. I heard one pundit put it today on television saying, you're not hearing the Mueller report, you're hearing the staff report. And that Mueller isn't really all that familiar with every aspect of the Mueller report. We now know that Robert Mueller isn't really capable and hasn't been capable of participating in this investigation. We now know that Robert Mueller was chosen to head up this investigation precisely because of the reputation he brings to it. Incredible integrity, unimpeachable integrity and honor. He's the face of the investigation. They've got his CV out there, his resume. He's a Vietnam War hero. He's a military war hero. The Attorney General, the DOJ second in command. I'm sorry, Attorney. Let me back this up a little bit. You got a Vietnam War hero here, a military war general over there. You've got, and we're talking about Barr. You've got military Attorney General here, DOJ second in command over there. Back to being FBI director over here, impeccable reputation, blah, 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 back and forth. So giving the whole investigation that impression. Meanwhile, the people actually running it are really a bunch of Hillary Clinton zealots. And I say that, and people hear you say that, and they go, well, you just hate Hillary. No, it's who they are. If you look at a list of everybody who sat on Mueller's investigation staff, they were all Hillary Clinton supporters. Some of them avowed Trump haters. These were all the people he had. They were zealots for the Clintons. Nobody knows who Andrew Weissman is. Nobody knows who Zebly is. Nobody knows them. They know who Strzok was and who Lisa Page are. Now they do. These are the two FBI lovers. But they didn't know any of these other people. They think Mueller's doing all the work, and they think Mueller is above reproach. But Mueller hasn't done anything but provide the reputation and the image. So when Devin Nunes was reciting the alternative theory here, that the real collusion between Russia and the United States occurred between the Democrats and Hillary Clinton and Russia with the Steele dossier. And when he went through the timeline of all these promises the Democrats have made to produce evidence of collusion, and yet there isn't any, and the report states there isn't, but Adam Schiff opens the committee today by pointing out that there is evidence of collusion in the report, and he calls Trump a Russian agent again, just today, when there isn't. So Nunes says the Democrats here are no different than people that tell you about the Loch Ness Monster. It was the best line of the day. He says, this is like the Loch Ness Monster. You're all saying you see it, but nobody can provide evidence for it. Nobody can find it, but it's there, said Nunes. Same thing here with collusion. Nobody can find it, but it's there, they're saying. It's gone from being invisible and hidden to now it's in plain sight in the Mueller report. And Mueller was listening to all of this today as Nunes was saying his piece. And it was like he was hearing it for the first time. Now, you can read facial expressions. He wasn't impassioned. He wasn't bored. He wasn't biding his time until Nunes finished. This is just a spur of the moment reaction, really, is that, and don't misunderstand this, Mueller is by reputation a lifelong Republican. He's worked in Republican administrations and so forth. I think it's another reason he was appointed here. It's to give the investigation this unimpeachable reputation and this image of nonpartisanship, when this investigation is one of the most rank partisan undertakings that we've ever had to deal with as the American people. Like everything else the Democrats do, they hide and lie about things. And they use misdirection and fakery to convince people that something isn't what it really is. I've seen that all through this investigation. Look at Adam Schiff. And look at Pelosi. Look at Schumer. Now, those two aren't on the committee, but look at these people and tell me the things that they are saying are truthful. It's like they're not the socialists and liberals really are, even though the mask has come off lately with the Squad and the others, Ocasio-Cortez plus 3. But Mueller was watching this, and he was listening to this like he's heard it for the first time. Is that plausible, do you think? Do you think he's never really heard this all before? I don't know. But I'll tell you this isn't the first time I've had this reaction with these people. So there's this gigantic press unveiling in September at their headquarters. And after the 2-hour presentation, when they reveal new products, this is Apple, by the way. Take Apple as an analogy here. They have a section set up where they press in attendance. The press in attendance can go and look at the new products. The new products are set up on display where you can touch them. You can use them for 2 to 3 minutes. But you really can't do much more than that. But they're on display. And now last year at this session, there's a photo that was taken. And it's a photo of Johnny Ive, who's the designer, the lead designer, talking to Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. And they're looking at the iPhone, the XR, and the multicolored versions of the phones last year. Johnny Ive has got his finger pointing to one of the phones. I'm looking at the picture here, and I can't really share it with you. And Cook is looking at it like it's the first time he's ever seen it. Now, wait, he's the CEO. You'd think that he'd know what the new products are. I've run this by people who work in massive corpa. And I said, is it possible the CEO of Apple didn't really know or see the new iPhones before they were released? Sure, it's possible. It's possible. He might not be part of the review and the review process, the approval process. They've got trusted lieutenants that handle that stuff. And that's why they all get paid millions of dollars a year. Cook has never been known to be a product guy. And so he probably didn't know. I can tell you the number of people who told me, no, it's not a surprise. Cook doesn't know. He trusts the people doing it. He's got other things that he's an expert in over at Apple. So there's nothing he can do. So watching Mueller today, you get that very same impression that you got off of Cook. That he was listening to Devin Nunes, hearing some of this stuff as Nunes was explaining it, as if it was for the first time. Looking at, like Cook looking at the product coming out of Apple. Now, might be wrong. It sounds far-fetched. I get that. But there's a little part of me that knows what we know now. And I think it's entirely possible that Robert Mueller hasn't a lot of knowledge about what really went on here behind the scenes. What do you think about that? Do you think he had knowledge of this? I'll get back. We'll look at your comments in a second here. But he's chosen precisely because he can't be hands-on anymore. He was chosen purely for the puffery of it all today. He was chosen for the PR value of it today, for the reputation that whatever work the special counsel's office is doing cannot be criticized. And it's unassailable. This man has more honor and more integrity than 10,000 people that live in Washington, D.C. And that worked for him. That worked for the Democrats. And you know as well as I do that the one thing is Mueller would not come under any criticism of any of that. And it's not going to change anything. Mueller's not going to change his testimony. He's not going to change what he knows or thinks he knows. He's not going to get very deep. He's going to keep passing it off because he doesn't know all the facts behind it. There's your conspiracy theory. Who's behind it then? It's his staff and the people governing his staff. Just so you know, Robert Mueller said that he wasn't familiar with Fusion GPS. Did you catch that today? Fusion GPS, you know who they are. It's strange because Fusion GPS and the Steele dossier are the entire reason why there was an investigation and he was put at the head of it. But Mueller said he didn't know who Fusion GPS was. The Steele dossier, Fusion GPS, Joseph Mifsud, Stephen Halper, these FBI players, these are why this all happened in the first place. And he claims he doesn't have any familiarity with Fusion GPS. That's pretty crazy. And I actually saw when that happened. And he came back on it by saying something, right. You know, and he didn't really know. And when Nunes, in his opening statement today, Mueller was listening to him with rapt attention. More attention than Mueller has paid to anybody. And I've seen him listening today. I'm not exaggerating this, folks. Robert Mueller looked like he was hearing half of this story for the very first time. And that he was hearing the Fusion GPS part. And if you think for a minute he sits home and watches the news about this stuff every day, you're wrong. He heard this for the first time, some of this stuff today. The Steele dossier part, the Fusion GPS part, the fact that Hillary Clinton's people paid for it, that his investigator was a Hillary Clinton donor, that his lead investigator went to her election night party, which it was a dud of a party, by the way, because she didn't win. He probably knew some of that stuff, but he was listening to Nunes, and there was no scowl on his face. There was no, this is garbage. There was no facial expression. He had rapt attention. And 50% of the story that you and I all know, he doesn't know. He didn't know the Fusion GPS and the FISA warrant aspect of this at all. He was a figurehead on this. He didn't do the work in this investigation. His name's on the letterhead. He's the picture of integrity and honor and all of that, but he didn't do the work. There's the conspiracy. This is totally a staff-driven investigation. And if he reads the New York Times, which I'm sure he does, and gets the Washington Post, he's not going to know anything. His report cites the Washington Post 90 times. The report itself quotes the Washington Post 90 times. The New York Times 75 or 80 times are quoted in the Mueller report as evidence of this so-called conspiracy, collusion, whatever, obstruction. He's citing the media. What do you know about the media in all of this, folks? As jaundiced and one-sided as the media is today, this is not far-fetched. Now, you know, we're all assuming that Mueller knows what he's talking about, that he's doing his best to kind of cover up what he's talking about. And I think it's entirely possible that he doesn't know what you and I know about this whole sham that was put together. And trust me, folks, this whole thing is a one big, fat, huge conspiratorial sham. Jesus. It makes me shake my head all over again. You know what? We're going to find out that this is true. That's what's going to happen. And I want to bring up a couple of things before I go to the chat room, and let's go through some of your comments. But I've got an article up here in front of me about Nunes, and it's entitled "Nunes Assails Democrats at the Mueller Hearing. They Colluded with Russian Sources." And this is through the Washington Examiner. And I'll kind of paraphrase some of this because I want to read the whole article to you. But Devin Nunes, the top Republican at the House Intelligence Committee, assailed Democrat colleagues during Robert Mueller's second and final hearing of the day for what he said was their role in fostering the spread of British ex-spy Christopher Steele's unverified anti-Trump dossier that Hillary Clinton bought and the Democrats bought. He hailed the hearing as the last grasp of Russian collusion conspiracy theory. Nunes said in his opening remarks that Democrats were complicit in running a Russia hoax with the media to damage President Trump's reputation. At the same time, Nunes said the Democrats have brazenly ignored red flags as well as the transparent absurdity of the claims that they're making to argue for nearly 3 years that evidence of collusion is hidden just around the corner. It's just there, folks. And as Nunes said, it's like the Loch Ness Monster. They insist it's there even if nobody can find it. And the California Republican said that for the congressional Democrats, the Russia investigation was never about, get this, folks, it was never about finding the truth. It's always been a simple media operation. And by their own accounts, that operation continues, he said, in that room today. Mueller didn't establish criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. In a clear swipe at Adam Schiff, Nunes even said, Adam Schiff, who insists there's evidence in plain sight of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin, Nunes said the opposite is true. There is no evidence in clear sight. And now that Mr. Mueller is here, said Nunes, he's going on, this is a quote, they're claiming that the collusion has actually been in his report all along, hidden in plain sight. And they're right. There is collusion in plain sight. Collusion between Russia and the Democrats, Nunes said. The Democrats colluded with Russian sources to develop the Steele dossier. And Russian lawyer Natalia Veselinskaya, how'd you like to have that name, colluded with the dossier's architect, Fusion GPS head Glenn Simpson. And so the dossier, which contained all these salacious claims about Trump's ties to Russia, was funded by the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. If this is news to you, you haven't been listening very close. Well, that sounds so negative. I don't mean it that way. This could be news to some of you. It's been a source of consternation for Republicans because of its use to obtain warrants to surveil one-time Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. Steele was working for opposition research firm Fusion GPS when he compiled the dossier. They used a fake dossier to get FISA warrants. That's why all the talk about the FISA warrants. Mueller wouldn't have to open up about the FBI's use of the dossier. He said in his opening statement to the House Judiciary Committee that he would not speak about the Steele dossier in his testimony, nor about the FBI's opening of the Russia investigation that preceded his appointment, citing his consultation with the Justice Department about restrictions. So Mueller, over and over again, kept citing, not in my purview, I cannot talk about that. And sometimes it was things that are in his own report. I think it was Jim Jordan, Representative Jim Jordan, asked him a question. I can't think of what it was off the top of my head. And Mueller said, well, I can't really comment on that. It's not in my purview. And Jordan said, well, that's funny. Right here on page 103, I think he said. It's right here. You said it right here. I said, I already know. I don't need you to answer the question. And Mueller I saw him. He went like, oh, well, he didn't know it was even in there. Oh, my God, folks. So I don't mean to be impassioned and worked up. I'm impassioned for the moment. It rankles me a little bit. Nunes, in his opening statement, he also focused another part on what is now the subject of a Justice Department review. He assessed the actions of the DOJ and the FBI around the genesis of the Russia investigation. He said the FBI's investigation was marred by corruption and bizarre abuses. And he listed the subjects of the GOP concern, including Justice Department official Bruce Orr, who served as an unofficial back channel between Steele and the FBI, and Joseph Mifsud, and Papadopoulos, claiming that the Russians had damaging information about Hillary Clinton, effectively started the inquiry into this. It was reported on Tuesday of this week, yesterday, that U.S. Attorney John Durham, who's been tasked by Attorney General William Barr to lead a review of the origins of the Russia investigation, is seeking an interview with Mifsud. And Mifsud with, I'm sitting here, I'm talking about it. The name of the source that was working with Steele, the company. Damn it. Anyway, let's move on. I mentioned it earlier. Mueller spent the morning today testifying about, in front of the House Judiciary Committee, with him seeming often very hesitant. He was uncertain under questioning, and at times he even seemed unfamiliar with aspects of his own report. And where the House Judiciary Committee focused mostly on issues related to obstruction of justice and other aspects discussed in Volume 2 of Mueller's report, it's likely that this afternoon's follow-up hearings were all dealing more with Volume 1, which was collusion, Russian interference, and the Trump campaign's foreign contracts. The White House has argued that Mueller's morning testimony was bad politically for the Democrats. The last 3 hours have been an epic embarrassment for the Democrats. Expect more of the same in the second half, the White House press secretary Stephanie Grisham said in a statement. And until today, by the way, if you didn't know this, Mueller's only public statement on the investigation occurred during that brief 9-minute press conference in May, where Mueller expressed his hesitancy to testify. Any testimony from this office would not go beyond our report. It contains our findings and analysis and the reasons for the decisions we made, Mueller said at that time. And the work speaks for itself, and the report is my testimony. I would not provide information beyond that which is already public in an appearance before Congress. This is what Mueller said. Do you think there was anything going on that maybe Mueller just didn't know all the facts behind this report? And that's why he's holding that hard line? He reluctantly agreed to testify following subpoenas from the Democrat-led House and the Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. And the night before the hearing, there was last-minute drama as the Justice Department instructed Mueller to not go beyond what has already been made public in his report. And as Mueller requested that his chief of staff, Aaron Zebley, be allowed to appear alongside him. Following the firing of James Comey, Mueller was appointed special counsel in 2017 to investigate any ties between the Kremlin and the Trump campaign. Mueller's 448-page report colluded that the Russian government interfered in the 2016 presidential election, but he did not establish any sort of conspiracy or coordination between the Kremlin and any Trump associates or any American for that matter. But you got the Democrats coming out in their press conference afterwards saying there's now a clear path to proving collusion. Well, what were the last 2.5 years for? Mueller kept declining to reach a decision on obstruction of justice, but he outlined 10 different episodes of possible obstruction committed by Trump during the FBI's initial Russia inquiry. And during the special counsel investigation, including Trump's alleged request to then White House counsel Don McGahn to have acting Attorney General Rod Rosenstein fire Mueller. Attorney General William Barr and Rosenstein determined Trump had not obstructed justice. Mueller's investigation swept up a number of Trump associates, including campaign director Paul Manafort, who was convicted on bank fraud, financial fraud, and he pleaded guilty to obstruction of justice. Former Trump campaign associate George Papadopoulos, who also pleaded guilty to making false statements to the FBI. Former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who also agreed to a guilty plea deal in connection to lies he told to agents. And former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, who pleaded guilty to lying to Congress. Trump associate Roger Stone is charged with witness tampering and making false statements, faces a trial later this year. Now, all of these, by the way, are all process crimes. You lie to Congress, you're going to go to jail. Whatever, all of that stuff. But there was something in here I wanted to point out that Michael Flynn is now appealing. He's fighting what happened to him because it has come out that Michael Flynn didn't lie. And he had a whole career as a general ruined because of this. And at the same time, had his pension stripped from him, being in the military for 30 years. All right, and there's so much here. I just don't want to get into it. It's going to take all night to do this. And we're running close to where I'm going to start wrapping this up. And I want to see some of your comments. The Russia investigation was never about finding the truth, folks. It's always been a simple media operation. It's by their own accounts that operation continues. And I guarantee you, they're going to keep it alive today and ongoing. It was a setup. Pure and simple, says Leslie. Exactly. Let me go back and let me take a look at some of your comments here and get your thoughts on this, because we're not going to go any more than 10 or 15 more minutes here. Tops. Elijah Cummings? Yeah. I wonder about him when I hear him talk, James. He does seem like he's slipping a little bit. But I don't want to use that to discredit what he's saying, other than to say he's got that air about him, and I wonder. Camel Tube 9429. I didn't see you earlier. Welcome. Jeannie Griffin, welcome. The mule is also a fall down drunkard. Drank all through the 22 months it was reported, says Jeannie Griffin. Now, we don't know that for sure, but it'd be worth finding out. The media, yes, Lewis, is the driving force behind the hoax. Folks, this whole thing was a hoax. It was all the way that Hillary Clinton could use to discredit her opponent. It didn't work. And the dossier she paid for, ordered and paid for, turned out to be unverified, and it was a fake. Even Steele has said, look, he says, a lot of it isn't true. That's another story. So do you think there is conspiracy going on behind the scenes? There was a little book we used to read when I was in high school, and it was about the Illuminati of all things. It's a little tiny paperback. It's about this big, about half of an inch thick, if that. My friends and I read it. It was called None Dare Call It Conspiracy. And it was just this little propaganda-ish pamphlet book on the Illuminati and how they're running everything. So I'm just going to borrow their phrase from the title of that book. None dare call it conspiracy. But do you think that's what it is? Brianna, how you doing? I didn't see you there. Brianna Dunlap. Nice to see you. Thanks for being here. And Suze, good to see you. Let's see. I wasn't looking at the chat room all the way through. I'm sorry, folks. I have a tough time pontificating off my soapbox and reading comments. So that's why I'm coming back to it. Cummings is your district, says James. Oh, that's interesting. Supernatural, good to see you. Great analogy. He says, for your information, coincidentally, there's now a Storm Loch Ness meme making the rounds from what I hear. What are they all going to do? Put on diving suits and get 1 million people walking across the bottom of the loch? Oh, boy. Let's see. They colluded, and then they tried to set Trump up for it. The Democrats love to throw their own crime on us. Yeah, there is a lot of that. Folks, I got to tell you, this whole thing, and the Democrats keep coming back to it, is their attempt over and over and over and over again to try to make this thing be something they can convince the American people by using that Trump is guilty of something. And when Schiff came out today and said he's guilty of Russian collusion, still believes he was working as a Russian agent. How in touch with facts is Schiff? Ask yourself that. Just because he says it, let me say this to those of you who may not be Trump appreciators or supporters. You didn't vote for him. You don't like him. You think he should be gone. Do you for a minute want anything that is dishonest to remove him from office? Or would you rather have him removed from office for facts and evidence? That's where I'd be. I didn't like Obama during the Obama years, but I would never have wanted him removed from office for something that was fabricated to try to get him removed and delegitimize his presidency. I thought his own political ideologies would delegitimize his presidency. And frankly, I don't think he was voted in twice because of his political ideology. So that's my opinion. Let's see. I'm just going to pull out a couple more comments. Becky says the Clinton Foundation has made the Clintons and anyone else who pays to play very rich. That's true. Jim Jordan, yeah, James Sheets. Jim Jordan was very well informed and prepared for this. Yeah, he shined in this. And so did Nunes. Let's see. GPS Fusion. Nellie Orr worked there, who'd been met with a who met with a Crown agent prior and post to the Trump Tower meeting. That's true, Jeannie. Was 35 half an hour ago. Sorry, Suze, I'm not quite sure what that was referring to. Let's see. Moving on. Who was a fixer? Jeannie Griffin said, James Comey was in with the Clintons. Yeah, he was a fixer. The 33,000 emails, please. If that's not obstruct, I got to tell you, and that's not because I dislike Hillary. I look at that and I go, seriously, folks, if your server is subpoenaed and you erase 33,000 emails and you use the excuse, well, those were personal emails, not government related. How does the government know that unless they look at it? Do you think Hillary Clinton is that stupid and naive? No, I think she knew exactly what she was doing. I think she's a smart cookie. I don't think she was right for the office for many reasons, but she's not dumb. But everybody wants to go, that's all in the past. Let's move on. Can't we move on? Can't we leave the poor woman alone? I've had people say. No. That's only 3 years ago, folks. All right. Schiff is a dirty rat. You're right, Jeannie. Schiff is, I think, I don't know how to describe Schiff in decent words without just name calling. I want to describe him as somebody who is probably in his heart of hearts a good, decent, loving man. But he has a political agenda. And he is one of those guys. He reminds me of, God, what was his name? The Kevin Spacey character in House of Cards, although he's not as shrewd. Doing what needs getting done for what he believes to be the greater good. So Hillary Clinton is a vile, lying, and manipulating death machine. Don't mince words, Leslie. She should have been locked up for a whole lot of things a long time ago. I agree with you on that point. I really do. I think she's worse than Bill, frankly. Bill was a philanderer. Hillary's a lot of other things. And she's the American Eva Peron. That's a good way to put it, Iowa X. It's so bad that bad actors, do act, and projecting that is amazing, freaking amazing, is still going on. Ain't that the truth, Camel? Ain't that the truth? I don't blame Bill. I would have been looking around too. And says James. And Leslie, she is the reason Bill is a philanderer. Well, maybe so. That's the typical male excuse. It's my wife. My wife, she doesn't pay me attention. She does this, she does that. Whatever. I know where you're coming from, Leslie. Look up Schiff's family tree, says Becky. And we should do that. I'm not going to do that here. So we're going to wrap it up here in 2 minutes. But anyway, so do you see where I was coming from with all of this? The reason I talk about conspiracy at all is not to say it's a conspiracy theory like, I don't know, think of your best conspiracy theory. The government's covering up aliens. Well, maybe they are. So that's maybe a bad example, but conspiracy theory. I think there's a big conspiracy that's going on behind the scenes with this whole I think the real reason you've seen anything happening about any of this over the last 2.5 years is to disenfranchise and delegitimize the Trump presidency. And now it's moved so far that there are people that want to see him removed from office. And you still do have Pelosi saying she doesn't think it's the best move for the country. But I think Pelosi's a dipshit anyway. So that's my We look at people, there's certain people, we work with people. We can go to the office. Anybody you can't say that about our government officials. That's really the bad course to take. How many of us have people at the office and we go, oh, yeah, he's a dipshit. She's a bitch. He's a bastard. That guy's pretty good. He'll give you the shirt off your back. We label people because we know we gauge them by their actions in life of all kind. Oh, he's the black sheep of our family. Oh, he's a saint. He would give you the shirt off his back. We have all these labels we put on people. And you know what? I can look at Adam Schiff and I can say everything I've seen him say over the years. I can't find myself connecting with him being a decent man or doing this for the good and noble causes, because it seems to me he's lying about everything he says. He's having to make the square peg fit into the round hole. So anyway, there you go. Pelosi's a vampire. Look at how pale she is. Thank you for that, Becky. You'll watch us again, says Donna Bell, in the morning with a clear head. It's 11:26 your time. It's 10:26 my time. 10:27. Folks, in 33 minutes, Rocky Stucci and I will be live doing the Situation Room. It's not going to be this, I guarantee you. This is my own BS that I had to get out. Rocky and I got to tell you, just because I'm not reading a book or engaging in some biblical study or something, doesn't mean I'm going to do this all the time, get political and so on. I would rather be less political and be more current event driven. That's the current event of today. Rocky and I because I've covered this, I'm going to steer us away from this. I don't think Rocky wants to talk about it. Maybe we will eventually, but right now, let it sit. We got other stuff we want to talk about. We want to talk about the generation of kids that are being raised now and what's going on there. There's a lot to be said there. So tune in a half an hour plus a minute or so. Also, please go to streamingtalkradio.com, streamingtalkradio.com, and you can click on all of our stuff over there. You can click on Son of a Patriot. That's the way. I don't have a donate button up in here. I might get one of those one of these days once I build a little more clout and a little more reputation over here. But for now, if you want to help support, go buy our shirts and stuff. That helps us out a lot. You can go to Tam O'Hare. Go to tamohare.com and click on the book on the front cover, which says click here to get your own copy. You can go buy a copy of Tam O'Hare. So those are ways you can help support us. And also, I want to tell you once again about my tarot readings. Today is Wednesday, 2 nights from now, day after tomorrow. Friday night is tarot night. And it will be from now on, unless I go out of town or something and we don't do it. But we're going to give away some free readings during that time. I'm going to give you free readings, 1 card readings, 3 card readings. We'll see what we do on Friday. We'll see what we feel like. It's all to kind of whet your appetite and see what the tarot is all about. You can go to my website, scottallenroberts.com, click on the tarot link, buy yourself a tarot reading. I've got a bunch that came in from the show last week, done a couple of them, and hopefully they'll tell you what they were like and what they thought of them. And other than that, come on back here tomorrow night, same bat time. Oh, wait, tomorrow night is Thursday? Might be on with Jeff Dougherty. We've had a couple of weeks where we've had to exempt why is my mind going blank? The rapscallions, the consequential. I keep wanting to say constitutional, and I knew that wasn't right. The consequential rapscallions. That's tomorrow night with Jeff Dougherty and me at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern, unless it's exempted, and then we'll be here doing something maybe funner than this. Think, people. I want to leave you with that. Don't let anybody tell you what to think or what to believe. Think for yourselves. Go out and look. Sometimes it's a little work. Sometimes it's easier than you think. So there you go. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you. I love you all. And I say about love, it's hard to love people you don't really know. I love you in that not the same wife like love I have for my wife, not the same love I have for my children. It's a different kind of love. I love you for being here. I love you for supporting me. I appreciate that. I love that you would give your time to me for an hour and a half every night. And so we'll see you over on Rocky's show. Talk to you soon. Hit the like button on the way out, please. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Share this with other people. Help. Here's a request. Help get me over 1,000 subscribers. And at that, I'll say goodnight and see you in a half an hour on Rocky's show. Bye.